in session 2. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Alicia, ma'am. I am the next participant, and I need your permission. Who is the moderator and the chairperson of today's session? I need your permission to start my presentation.
Yeah, sir, but this is not Alisha. This is Shivana, student of Holy Cross College, and I logged in from my staff sighting. Pardon, sir.
I'm saying that I'm the next participant. Shall I start my presentation?
Of course, sir.
I'm
Of
Dr.
course, you
Rajesh
can
Kumar
move on.
Sharma.
Welcome to the session, sir. You can move on.
I'm not getting your voice. Okay.
Sir,
Now
please,
I will
please
start
start
my
your session.
presentation. Yeah. Myself, Dr. Rajesh Sharma, Associate Professor, Education from International Center for Distance and Open Learning, Himachal Pradesh University, Shimla. And I'm a chairperson of Center for Buddhist Studies. So I'm hereby present for today's my topic on this international conference related to cultural. So Buddhism and education. This is the title of my presentation. So with you, we all know that this religion, Buddhism, and it has a strong, self-realization approach and aim of education, which is a broader aspect, and it is towards the peace of life. So I am delighted to present my this topic. So in the name of the God, Lord Buddha, I bow myself and I say Namo Nama, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. So here was introduction part. It started at the period of 600 BC to 600 AD. So before the death of Christ and after death of Christ, this period was there. There was institutional organization by this Buddhism and Lord Buddha based on teaching of Gautam Buddha. So Gautam Buddha, who has, you all know that they had a sublimation of soul, they go for emancipation, and this is the real aim of education. So in that, Buddha born in royal family of Kapilvastu in 16th century BC, and his father's name was Sudhodan and mother's name was Mahamaya. He was married to Yashodhara, and along with that, major tenets of the Buddhism was the teaching of Buddha were mainly oral. Buddha philosophy is described of three Pitakas, which includes Vinay rule of conduct, Sutta Buddha's sermon, and third is Abhidhamma exposition on the philosophical theories. So this was the aspect of major tenets of Buddhism, and the aim of education. It was like in new education policies in India or throughout national policies in education, we are going for holistic development. So aim of the education at that time was also development of the personality, yani Vyaktitva Nirman. So this was the aim of the education, physical and intellectual development, which is much needed in the current time also. So physical and intellectual development, like we say that a sound mind lives in a sound body. And then there was a religious and spiritual development. So religious and spiritual development, today in this material world, we go for emotional intelligence, we have a spiritual intelligence less, but we move towards artificial intelligence. But it was the aim of the education to go and develop religiously and spiritually. Character building, in character building, we can say that every individual has their own character, and character of a man inside is a man outside. So, man of the character in the state or the nation or in the world, that reflects the holistic approach towards the life. It is the main gist of this aim of education in Buddhism, promotion of the social efficiency and happiness. By this education, they want to promote social efficiency. They must be a good social human being to be have a interrelation with the society, and which leads us towards the real happiness. Last 2 months back, Mahatma Buddha disciple and our Holiness Dalai Lama, who is staying back in Himachal. I am from Himachal, so he's from staying. Tibetan government is in exile at Dharamshala. So he said that today's the education is not to give happiness; it is giving a pain. by virtue of fees and extrinsic values, material values. There, so previous education it was based on all the real happiness, self-realization, and be satisfied in a minimum resources to go for maximum development of body, mind, and soul. So presentation aim of education was to presentation and spread of the culture. Then Buddha theory. When we come towards the Buddha theories, every education, every aspect, any subject is incomplete without their theory. And theory leads towards the achieving the aim, objective, principles, and in a right approach, we need to achieve our goals. So Buddha believe in law of karma. Law of karma is doing. It is a law of doing work, and in result we get the fruit of that work. So Buddha believe in law of work, he karma, and he present existence of the individual is the effect of past karma. He believed that what we are today, it is all the product of the past or previous life, which we have done in present or previous lives. He believed in rebirth. Today, in this modern world, we believe in this worth, pragmatic approach is there, but in this idealism or this philosophy, which had been followed by Charvak also, he believed in rebirth. So rebirth, reincarnation, and karma, this Siddhant was there. Buddhist philosophy does not believe in God. Generally, we think that it believes in God, but they believes in karma, and the place of God is taken by the universe in such a way that no fruit of action is lost. A man get what he deserves on the basis of his past deeds. What we are having in our life today, that may be a luxurious life or that may be painful, but everything is dependent upon our past karma, which is giving us our pleasure in life, or we have a test in our life by sorrow and deep threats. So this had been discussed in this Buddhist theory. Nirvana. Nirvana is the state of great pleasure and peace which can be attained through wisdom, goodness, and knowledge. Whole world is, unrest and many things are going on. The patience is losing and everyone is in stress. The world is going for different wars, World War One, World War Two, and we having a Russian and Ukraine World War. So in this aspect, this education theory leads us toward wisdom, goodness, and knowledge. So primary education, according to Buddhism, what was the gist of the education is, so primary education, it starts for the age for six. When the child is in sixth year, he has to go for primary education. Children has to study children books named Siddhu Rastu. Siddhu Rastu, like when we were in childhood, we used to go for comics and different religious, epics books like in India in Sanatani education, or in Christianity there is no Bible. So in children, when we are in a lower age, then we go for Siddhu Rastu during first 6 months, which includes 16 chapter and 49 alphabets. In Buddhism or Bhoti language, we have a 16 chapter and 49 alphabets, and it is that role of the teacher or guru who will make their child to learn these 16 chapter and go for 49 alphabets. In the beginning, children used to intimate the pronunciation of the teachers followed by writing themselves. What they had been, now we discuss about linguistic skills: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. We go for five sense organs, that is ear, eyes, nose, skin, and tongue. So everything can be stimulated at the lower level. So this tests on to intimate the pronunciation. Teacher followed by writing themselves. Teaching method was oral. At that time, the teaching method, it was oral and cramming was emphasized. Like, in every religious institutes, or that may be Hinduism, that is may Christianity, that may be Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, or madrasa and all that in Islam. So oral and cramming method was the oldest method, where teacher used to make these primary level students to learn their lessons, their alphabets, and their topics. The medium of the instruction was Pali language. At that time, the famous language was Pali. It is the little bit upbranch of the Sanskrita. Sanskrita is the oldest language, but it is the powerhouse of the all the researches in NASA and ISRO, and most preferred language in computers also was Sanskrit. So from Sanskrit, it had been developed to Pali, and Pali was the language. In Buddhist period, students has to stay in a Sangha or Biharas. At that time, these schools, now today in modern time, we say that monasteries or schools or temples, they were Sanghas or Biharas. And that was having all different sections, classrooms, and according to the mental level and the age group of the students. Students has to present themselves before the teacher to ask for the permission, which is known as Pavja. Pavja, which means to go out. So, like we say to the teacher, may I go to drink water with ma'am or sir? May I go to outside? So, these were the Pavja, which means to go out. The boys went out of their families and joined the monasteries. At that time, the boys from the family they leave their family and join monasteries. After admission in the sanghas, they could remain as a monk, leaving their former caste, dress, character, and etc. So when they leave their home or house, they live like a monk, saint, and leaving all this, they leave their caste, their dress, their character. So now they had been changed as monks, and they this is practices is still followed by different Buddhist centers throughout the world in modern time also. And this has been little changed, but it is followed. All the castes were allowed to get admission in the monastery. There was no such a caste, creed, or background which is merit for admission. Everyone can take a admission in that monasteries. These Pavja Samskara, minimum mandatory age of for entering Bihara was 8 years. The entrance was permitted to the students after shaving their heads. So their heads wearing yellow clothes and requested the head monk of the Sanghas to allow them for admission. So that was the scenario. The monk asked them to take two bows. At time when they enter, they have to go in front of their gurus, their teachers. I go on to the shelter of the Buddha. I seek the shelter of the Dharma. I enter the shelter of the Sangha. This like Indian, this Buddhist thought is Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. So it was like that. I go on to the shelter of the Buddha. I seek the shelter of the Dharma. I enter the shelter of the Sangha. No one could get admission without the consent of his parents. At that time, everyone has to take consent of the parents whether they want to send their child to admitted in that gurukuls or that biharas or that monasteries. Patient of infection disease, government servants, slaves, and soldiers were not allowed to be admitted in sanghas. There was some restriction for the disciple of the students or the parents who are infected with a disease, and government servants who was working for the king or who were the slave at that time or who were soldiers serving for the state or the country were not allowed for that. That was the provision, and some restriction were there. Role of the students. Now coming to the role of the student, which is most important in this Buddhism education. Admitted students were called Samanir. Samanir. Samnira is the word for the admitted students who are the in these monastery not to kill, and they have to follow some rules. What were the rules? Like not to kill any living being, not to kill any living being, not to accept anything given to him. If anyone want to give him gift, in today world we can say that on a birthday, on any day, or in a special day, or a person who like the kids, they pass toffees, chocolates, and many sweets. So that was also restricted in these biharas in current scenario also, not to accept anything given by him. Live free from the impurity of the characters. We have to live free from different types of impurities. Our character should be very clear and it should be humble, not to tell a lie. We should not speak lie. We should live in a pure form, not to use any intoxicating things. So you can see that at that time in education, we have to be not get intrinsic extrinsic values, but it should be intrinsic also. It is not only the self expression, but it was like making ourselves more conducive and in a pure form to make our body, mind, soul integrated. and there should be no such intoxicant to be taken for as an idea, as a thought, as a action, or as a product, so that that can intoxicate our body. Not to take food in proper time. So in the past time, it was there to take food in a little quantity so that they can have right sleep. So right sleep can make them active towards their objectives, and they are more keen towards doing their work. So not to speak ill of anybody. Uh, in education, they treat that everyone should speak positively, and not to discuss the behaviors, negative, ill behaviors, not to discuss the backbiting should be avoided, not to speak negative towards anyone, not to use luxurious and scented things. So, like people, we go for brand from the childhood. Parents are in a going for needs to comfort zone and comforts to luxury zone. So, in modern world, everyone is using luxury life, but at that education, it is to live in a simpler form, in a minimum way, no luxurious scented things, no gifts are accepted, no gold or silver is required to be bare in on a body, like ring, or it may be in bracelet or in any form, not to accept the gifts of gold and silver. The 10 rules were there for the monks. The teacher was called Upjasya, who used to take the responsibility of the student up to the age of 20. So there was a mentor, guide, a philosopher, and that was their spiritual guru also. And they consider for the age of 20 maturity, when they are capable for upsampada. Upsampada is the maturity age which is considered at 20. And after that, upsampada, what was upsampada? Coming to this point, to next slide. After completion of education of 12 years, and on attaining the age of 20 years, the monks had to undergo the ritual Upsapada, and then he used to become a permanent member of Sangha. But only those monks who had enough of spiritual knowledge were taken to Sangha. So everyone is not qualified for Sangha. When there was it is like on entering behavior of the child is judged at a terminal behavior, and there was evaluation, and evaluation in modern term we can go for summative and formative evaluation. At that time, there was evaluation by their mature teachers, their gurus, and they go and promote who will go to Sangha and who will leave that education. So this was the Upsampada. This process was Upsampada. The qualification and duties of the teacher. We like in the modern world, we need different exams, tests, JVT, TGT, diploma in education, different level is there. So at that time also there was a qualification and duties of the teacher. Bhikshu were teachers. They were must spend 10 years as a monk and must possess the purity of the character, thought, and generosity. In modern world, we go for the qualification, academic qualification and desirable qualification. Like as that, there was a qualification levels, and Bhikshu were minimum must have a 10-year experiences and purity with the character, thoughts, and generosity. He must be possessive. He must be in going in right direction. I have met some of the bhikshu in the modern education system also in monasteries, and many of the students, they are teachers, they are student of mine in my institute, which is a teacher training institute. I am working for that. Along with that, I am working for the chairman as a Buddhist studies. So I had gone through the interviews of the teachers as assistant professor last time. So some of the bhikshu of these different universities and monasteries, they have a very strict disciplined life. They have a very pure behavior towards the outer world, and they have a better teaching methods and more clarity towards the subject. So that had been examined by me practically. There were two categories of the teacher, Acharya and Upadhyaya. This is also present prevailed in some of the traditional universities, departments of this Buddhism, Center for Buddhism, Acharya and Upadhyaya. Acharya was admit number of the people who would stay for minimum period of 12 years. He would not accept any fees. At that time, they have to be very particular and admit themselves, and they must stay for 12 years, and there will be no fee. It will be by the uh, you know by dhan and punya, charity. Upadhyay admits the students and imparts instruction on the payments of the fees. So Upadhyay was the students impart instruction while payments of the fees is there. His pupil were to study the part of Vedas for the contemporary period. In that time, there was a Veda, which is the ritual books of the Sanatan education, Hindu education, which have to be studied at this time. Teacher were responsible for the proper education of the students. He had to look after their needs affectionately. Teacher were responsible for the mental and physical development of the students. He had to look after them at the time of the sickness. Teachers were very close, affectionate, good, and pure. So that was the role of the teacher because teachers are the mentor, parents, and guides. So they are like a modern wardens when they are in the hostels, and wardens look upon their all the wards or the students who are in their hostels. Like as that, the same activity has to be performed by the teachers at that time. Teachers were very close, affectionate, and good, pure. So these routines are still in the monasteries and followed in the same strict way, but some modern things had been introduced in the current time. But there are, throughout world, Buddhism is expanding and having a peaceful religion in the world. And many country has followed these, and many disciples are there. But they had been inspired by the Vedas, by the Buddhism, and then rule throughout the world because all the world is on unrest for material gist. And this cutthroat competition leads us to need a mental peace. We need a real equipoise. We need a resonance, and in the thoughts, we need some sublimation of the souls. So this religion or education, it should be integrated in modern education world so that there should be a proper development of the child. Regular service of the gurus was there. In the morning, students were arranged for water, look after the teacher's meal. They would cook the food, feed the teachers, clean the utensils. So, like there was a self-dependent approach. Swablamban, in Indian concept we say that Swablamban, self-discipline. It was not a push start, but it was a self-start, and self-discipline was there, self-knowledge was there, self-control was there, self motivation was there, self-control was there. They would go out for alms. They had to keep the place tidy. Where have they have to sit or stand or study or work? They have to be make clean, calm, and tidy. They could not to go anywhere without the permission of the teachers, and they have to take the prior permission from the teacher. School administration, if we say that, so what about the school administration? So it was conducted by the Sangha, monasteries, Biharas. Education institutes were based on federal system. Uh, these education institutes are the integrated part of the system. Teachers and taught live together in Biharas and monasteries. There was a equal provision in the buildings where teachers as well as the students they still live there. In modern monasteries also this type of provision is there. There was a democratic organization of the education institutes. Every institutes have their democratic setup, their own internal, we see in the board school level there is a board, there is a universities they have a administrative block, they have a examination branch, they have a different administrative blocks. So like as that here education organization was integrated and self-made. The gates of the Sangha was guarded by scholars called Dwar Pandit. So there was a duties of the students or the monks or the disciple turn by turn on rotation based as per their number or the roll number. They have to be a gatekeepers for a day or a week as a known as Dwar Pandits. One learned bhikshu was appointed head of the education institute. Who is the most learned bhikshu? He is the head of the institution, like headmaster or the principal or the vice chancellor. He is appointed as the head of the institution. There was no external interference in administration of sanghas. So there was in a current scenario there is interference from the outer world. Politicians are there, rulers are there, bureaucrats are there. But at that time there was a administration of sanghas internal, and no one can but make force to need appointments or change or admission. So everything had been Then curriculum. When we come to know curriculum, what is curriculum basically? It is in the hand of the teacher by virtue of which he can mold his material of student in his classroom, that is studio, according to his ideas and ideals. So curriculum includes timetable, it includes your curricular activities, and it includes syllabus. So Buddhist curriculum education was mainly religious. Its aims was to attain nirvana. The broadest aim of education is self-realization, that is called nirvana, free from all ailments. Buddhist philosophy believes that woman, wealth, and ornaments are the real binding, and it should be already achieved by salvation, non-attachment with the life. Monks. The curriculum was religious, which include teaching of Buddha, Dharma Shastra, Sutya, Vinaya, Dhamma, Pita, Vedas, Puranas, grammar, astrology, astronomy, Vedangas, medicine, magic, Ayurveda, politics, culture, mathematics, etc. were included in the curriculum for general students. There is less time, otherwise, I will go deep inside these slides, but the time is shortening. The knowledge of the Sanskrit was necessary for higher education. At that time, it was a Sanskrit, it is required for teaching at that level. Then we have a method of teaching. What are the methods of teaching? Without these methods, this curriculum cannot be achieved their aims. So when we want come to know small objectives and which leads towards the aim, we need some methods. The method were oral discussion, preaching, repetition, debates. Techniques of the teaching was learning. Seminars were there, like what we are doing on this virtual platform right now today at a international level. We are having a different subjects, ideas, but integrating cultural plurality throughout the world by these international conferences. All the highest intellects, they are interacting on this platform to give a new direction and measures, and we can learn from each other. Like as that, the seminars were conducted in this methods of teaching. Mental and moral development was there. Attain bodhisattva. Bodhisattva is the state writing, developing. You have, today you can see that if you move towards monastery, there is a very big artistic work are there, religious work is there, architect is very rich today still, and they're singing, dancing, dress, costume, their meals, everything has an artistic approach. This had been come from the long back with their right methods of the teaching. The method of teaching were question answer, discussion, logical arguments, tour, conferences, arrange full moon day and first day of the month, meditation and solitude. So today, when you go to Bihara monasteries, you can see monks doing all these, performing these all methods for learning, for practices. Other methods were theory, example, contradiction, evidences. There was an argument and inductions was there. There was a medium of the instruction was common language. So common language generally those who can be followed or preferred, like Buddhism. At that time there was a, now in current time we speak Buddhist language, or these all are in Bhoti language. So that is most prevailed throughout the world for Buddhist education. Moreover, in university level higher teaching, there is the English language or medium where we can go for. But in India or some institution, Sanskrit, which is the most logistic language, Sanskrit is very necessary and compulsory for the teachers as well as the disciples to get the real teachings of different methods or different subjects of Buddhism. Women education. Previously, women were not allowed to get education, but after the request of the disciple Ananda Buddha was one of the disciple who had a brainstorming and raised and lead this idea, and requested to the monasteries to allow women to be enter in sanghas. Now you can say that there is a bhikshuni called like male are bhikshu students and female students they are bhikshuni. Bhikshuni were not permitted to give education to women in alone. They have to be very particular, they have to be very strict, and they have to be live a different and a very clear life. So they women are were considered inferior to men. In Buddhism, there was a privilege of a man prominent society in the Buddhism. So then general women were not allowed to get education. So this was the scenario. But now in the modern world, women also get education. Then we have a vocational education. So when we go towards vocational education, bhikshu were given various types of education in handicrafts, weaving, stitching, of the clothes, etc. Agricultural trades, commerce, animal husbandry were also taught to them. Education in architecture, sculpture, painting helped in construction of beautiful monasteries. Today, if you visit throughout the world in different biharas, monastery, and sangha, you can see this all sculptures on their wall painting, in their hall, in their, where their Padam Sambhava or Lord Buddha's statues are there, and everything's or roof and all everything have this glimpse of this type of art, current present in today world's modern world. Also education of medical sciences is a gift. You can say that there have a Buddhist health sciences in Dharamshala, which is the capital of Tibetan government in exile. I'm native of that very place. There is a Tibetan medical system also. They give the medicine for cancer stage 1, cancer stage 2, cancer stage 3. Still, but that has a little impact on pitta vata kapha, which is little heavy dose in current peoples, because the immune of the people is a very weak. So there is a very prominent medicine system also in Buddhist culture. Education of the medical science, the Mantri were there. The great Ayurveda Acharya Dhanmantri, they all owe respect towards this Dhanmantri, and he is a very known saint and rishi in Vedas who had been the Acharya, who is the greatest leader or the highest teacher of Ayurveda. And in demerits of Buddhist education, although we have not to go for demerits, but when we go for critical thinking, and we must know some of the consequences. So when we have discussed in this conference, you had all come to know that there is a uh, priority to the male on as compared to female. So the decline of the Buddhism was there. Weakness of the country. Today we can see that this Tibetan government is in exile because the revolutionary approach is little big. There is a hatred for handwork. So there was a little hard work is less or handwork is less in this system in Buddhist education. Neglection of the woman education. When we neglect the woman, because in a Purusha Prakriti, in Sanatan, we can say that male and female are equal. They are like a positive and negative charge, and they can incomplete. So in a society, there should be given a priority to the women by the women in this Buddhist education also. Neglection of the worldly life. So today, in a current scenario, this worldly life is they are far away from this worldly or material life, and they are still living in back to nature in a previous life or primitive life. So that is the little demerits. Otherwise, contribution to the Indian education system. What we see in this Indian education system and this Buddhist education, provision of the vocational education, which is one of the concept we have taken in Indian education. Although Buddhism, it had been derived from Indian Sanatana education or Vedas. So the vocational education is one of the part. Then provision of education of worldly subjects. So there is a Indian education contribution in Buddha that different subjects can be studied in different courses of Buddhism in a modern world. So they go for English, they go for Sanskrit, they go for language, they go for social sciences, they go for different subjects. Encouragement to local language. So there is in Indian education also, we encourage local language, we promote local language. Reason for primary education. So primary education should be from the age of 5 or 6, and it should be in a natural way with the idealistic concept. In education institutes, although in Indian concept or we have some interference of the government with that, but still many institutions grow in a democratic way, and that is the real mean, and it had been derived from this previous primitive Buddhist education. Center of international education. So when we go for Indian education, we can say that this This is the center Buddhism and Indian education that will integrate it to go for Center for International Education. So this all is from my side. At international level to share my views and future approach to be in a constructive way. So all the organizers and the moderators and chairpersons of this very international conference, and thank you on the behalf of Himachal Pradesh University Center of International Studies and Chairman Buddhist Study Center to giving me this opportunity. Over to you, moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.